Hello and welcome. It is Deb and Bec here, and we have got a great show for you as always this week. But just before we dive in, there's a few things that we would like to share with you about what we have been up to. And one of the things we wanted to talk to you was about Bec and I behind the scenes have been with a group of other people. We've been getting together a CIC. Now, just in case you don't know what a CIC is, because I didn't.
We didn't.
It is a community interest company. So it's a bit like a charity, but you run it as a business. So any money that you earn from the business, somebody can take a wage, but any money that is earned from the business is generated to help community projects. And I don't know if you know, but for 2 years running, unfortunately not this year, but for 2 years, for obvious reasons, but for 2 years running, we ran a mental health and wellbeing conference in North Devon, which was just, it was amazing. We had the best time. And we wanted to get some funding towards that conference so that people could come and find out about this understanding of their mind, you know, people from the local community who maybe otherwise wouldn't have been able to. But it was difficult to take funding for our normal Dare to Be You business. So one of the reasons that we got involved in starting a CIC is so that we can do other projects like our conference to help people with mental health and well-being, and we've been into Exeter College.
Yeah, we've been into the college to share about resilience and our innate health and that kind of thing. And so the CIC is now, I believe, after many months in the background,
a lot of hard work,
fully functioning, and our website is webofwellbeing.org. You can go and have a look at what we're up to, and we're working alongside Denise Holland, Pete Anderson, Quinn Cashin and Ivana Cullum, and then obviously of course the two of us, and the six of us are really just extremely keen to get this understanding out as far as we can. So if you are interested in seeing what projects we're all up to and wanting to donate, which you can do
absolutely
from the website,
feel free, donate away.
Very welcome to support our CIC. We already have a couple of projects we've got lined up for early next year to start getting this out further into the community. One of the decisions we made as a business a couple of weeks ago was that we would now put any sales from our books straight into the CIC. So that's kind of our business's contribution to our CIC. And of course, you're welcome to join in and contribute.
What have we got? So yeah, if you want to go and buy one of, we have the Dare to Be You book. What else?
We've got the Warrior's Journey.
Oh yeah, we have the Warrior's Journey.
We've got Lucy's book, Table with No Edge.
Yes,
and we've got a poetry book, The Inside Out Universe.
We didn't do this beforehand,
did we?
This was not something we planned
on the fly. And then Lucy's book, Table with No Edge,
that one?
Which I'm not sure if we've got one. As if by magic. So if any of those books appeal to
they
you,
are all on Amazon, and I will make sure there are links below this video wherever you see it.
Yeah. So if you go and buy those from now forever,
forever and ever,
any income we get from those will be going into the community interest company. So not only can you get a wonderful under £10 gift for Christmas,
I was just going to say a great gift for yourself if you want a gift for you, and a great gift for someone else. They're all lovely books.
Yeah, and the money from that will be going to a fantastic cause. And like I say, webofwellbeing.org if you want to find out more about how that works and what projects we're all up to. It's a fantastic cause, and we're just really thrilled that it's finally taken off, because it's taken most of this year to get everything together in the background. So look out for more of that coming next year for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really thrilled that I'm going to be doing a project in the new year to help some women, and I'm actually working with the lady who first helped me. I feel like she saved my life, so it's really it's just lovely when we get into this loop, what comes around and how that we can give back. So yeah, absolutely thrilled about our CIC and it all being off the ground. So yes, that would be great. So let's dive into today's show. So today we're going to be talking all about sleep.
Yeah, so last week we put something out in our Facebook group. I think it was just a fun question, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But it brought a lot of stuff up, didn't it, for people, which was.
I think we had 4 choices. If you could wave a magic wand and have something, I said, what would it be? And one of them was a good night's sleep. And we just had comment after comment after comment after comment of people saying, you know, they don't sleep, they don't get a good night's sleep, they would love to. So yeah.
So it inspired us to make our show all about it this week, because I think both of us have had our own problems with sleep in the past, and
gosh, yes.
have seen some stuff around that. So we
yeah,
thought it would be a great topic. It seems to be something that everyone has a toe in the water of. So
yeah, indeed. And where I think, you know, it's easy to have one bad night or something like that. Definitely what came up when we put that out there was how many people night after night after night don't sleep. And interestingly, one of the people who commented on there was actually someone who had been in a talk that I gave a couple of years ago, and I had said something, and she said it completely changed her experience of not sleeping, and she sees it very, very differently. So I thought maybe it would be worth starting with sharing what I shared, something along those lines then that obviously helped her. So for many, many years I slept fine, and sleep was not a problem to me. I would go to bed, you know, when I was a child, go to bed, go to sleep, get up in the morning, no problem. Then when I found all sorts of things going on in my life and my life not being great, definitely for me, sleep was one of the first things that just went out of the window. I just found it incredibly difficult to switch off, to relax, and to go to sleep. But I'd never stopped and looked or taken much notice of it. I just accepted that it was something I wasn't going to get much sleep. And then a friend of mine, we were having a conversation one day, and she put the idea into my head of counting how many hours I slept. And she said, everybody needs 8 hours sleep. How many hours do you get? And then I looked, and I was definitely not getting a good 8 hours. And so I got all up in my head about how I wasn't getting enough sleep. And when I was awake at night, before I was dropping sleep, I would check the time. I would look at the time when I was awake, and I'd be forever working out how much I'd slept and what was going on. And I got myself into a right pickle with it. And I had a massive, what I can see now was a massive story at that moment. It looked an absolute truth that I didn't get enough sleep. I was tired. I couldn't do certain things, and certainly not do them well, because you don't do these things well when you are tired. And I carried that story with me for a very long time. And I would get a lot of headaches and be poorly, because people who are tired get headaches, people who are tired get poorly. And this whole thing just became this huge thing for me. And when I came across this understanding of the mind and began to see that we create our own reality, and the thinking that we dwell on, the thinking that we look towards, the thinking that we believe to be true becomes our reality. One of the things that I got a little bit curious about was this whole big sleep thing. And trust me, it looked real. It looked concrete. It was like, I cannot see how that can be anything to do with my thinking. I don't sleep, therefore I am tired, therefore I can't do these things. There didn't seem to be a place where that could be anything to do with my thinking. But I was beginning to see in many other areas of my life, I was beginning to see things, beginning to see that the only thing that needed to be different was my thinking, and my experience became very different. So I got really curious about it, as we talk about a lot. And I just began to look at it. I began to notice that how strong my stories were about this. And I just began to get curious about what would happen if I considered a different story, if I considered something different. And it was amazing what began to happen. And when I would wake up, I stopped looking at the time when I went to bed. I stopped looking completely. I just made a decision to completely stop looking at how much sleep I was getting. Trust me, like most of these things, when they become habits, it would be like, can I have a quick look? You know, but I made the decision not to, and to the best of my ability, I stopped checking how many hours I was sleeping. And then I decided that I would run the story that if I was awake, it was perfectly okay to be awake. If I was awake, it was because I'd had enough sleep, and I could either just turn over, I could meditate, I love to do this thing when I'm in bed and I'm awake. I just tell myself little stories in my head. I just love it. And I could do that. Sometimes I would write, but I just, instead of running the story, I am awake and I don't like this, I'm awake and I shouldn't be, I'm awake and I'm going to be tired, I'm awake and I'm going to be ill. None of that. I stopped taking any notice of any story that was saying anything like that at all. And just decided that being awake was just as good as being asleep, and I was okay. And I cannot tell you, it might sound, you might go, well, that won't work for me, or that's ridiculous. But it has made a life-changing difference to me and to the amount of sleep that I get.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're hearing in any of that.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I really wanted to pick up was that place that we go to where we immediately hook things together.
Yes.
I know that happens to me, and I've heard lots of examples of where that happens for other people, where we kind of have this, I only had, let's say, 5 hours sleep. And that might be true. That bit might be true. Then what we do is add something onto it. Therefore, I'm tired, or I'm headachy, or I can't this, or I shouldn't that. And it's just seeing that we don't need to hook those things together. You simply had 5 hours sleep. That's neither good nor bad. It just is. And very much like whether it's sleep or anything else that we talk about, very much for me, what this conversation has invited is for me to just unhook as many of those things as I can. And it's almost it happens through me as I get curious. Like Deb said, we talk about curiosity a lot, and that's your invitation to just be interested and explore this for yourself. When you start to look at this and go, well, what if it doesn't matter how many hours sleep I have? What if it's okay that, because for me, what often happens to me is I lie awake for quite a while before I actually fall asleep. And I know that doesn't happen for Deb. You're out like a light.
I'm always out like a light.
And that, there's nothing in either of those that it's neither, it's neither right nor wrong that happens to me and that happens for Deb. And whatever your falling asleep experience is, it's just seeing that is what's happening. And I have noticed how many times I can argue with that. I can lie in bed and do the whole, I should be asleep by now. That's an hour past.
And we can judge it as good or bad or not.
I should have been asleep. It's bad. I'm going to be tired. And what I have noticed and what I have been curious and played around with is, what if it's okay? What if Becky's process is to go to bed at whatever time I go to bed and allow myself as much time as I need to fall asleep? What if that's okay? And the more I've played around with that being okay, the more comfortable it is for me. And I quite enjoy, like Deb says, I do some of that. I tell myself little stories, or often what happens to me is some of my, really good business ideas pop into my head at,
mine too,
11:15 at night when I feel like I should have been asleep by now. And I think, oh, okay, so this is the time that the universe can see that I'm at my quietest, and I'll take notice of these ideas. Fantastic. Yeah. It's great to me that we get that somehow in our lives are set up that for me personally, that works really well. I have, I do a lot during the day, and I'm often, watch TV, or I'm on the phone, or I'm chatting to them. There's no space for those ideas to come through during the day so much. So how amazing it is that it's set up that I get some quiet time when I go to bed, and those ideas are free flowing, and so much stuff comes through at that point. And then when it's the right time, I fall asleep. I can't even put a pin on when it is that I fall asleep. There's like something quite strange that happens, isn't there, in the sleeping process that we can't quite, there's no kind of, oh, I was awake then and then I was asleep then. There's just this weird vacuum almost, isn't there? And it's like, oh,
it is difficult to
actually remember being awake.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't anymore. But for me, it's just looking at and seeing the design here is perfect. We are designed to fall asleep. We are designed that happens through us. And we can be very good at getting in the way of that system. and all of the stories that we can have where we say, I should have been asleep by now, or I should have this many hours sleep. If I don't sleep, then this, then that. That just, it's like a spanner in the works. It just gets in the way of our sleep. So the kind of exploration and the curiosity here is, what if it's perfectly okay? What if your pattern of sleep is actually perfectly okay? And as soon as we begin to explore in that direction, we get back into that kind of flow of how sleep actually works, how it happens through us, how we can just, you know, it's ideal to have things like a nice comfortable space to lie down, a fairly quiet or dark room, but equally people can fall asleep absolutely anywhere.
I do notice how our different stories make a difference. We have where we live here, I'm just watching out the window actually, and at the moment we have a lot of starlings, and they do something called a murmuration, which is just the most beautiful thing. Google it, it's just amazing. But very often in the morning there's like hundreds and hundreds of them. We have a few trees outside, and they're like, the trees are black with these birds. They just look, and they're all singing, and I just think it is beautiful. I love it. And I'm really aware that if the window is open in our bedroom, my partner is like, oh, you know, those birds, they're waking me up. And I absolutely, number one, I don't hear them. And when I do hear them, I really, sometimes when he said they've woken me up, I haven't even been aware that I haven't heard the noise, because to me it's just lovely. And I'm aware that that's how I like my head to be. And one of the things that I remember from when I was first around this understanding and first playing in this arena, and certainly sleep was one of these places for me. You probably heard me when I was speaking then, you probably heard me say about our sleep stories. And I did not think I had a sleep story. I had a sleep truth. And when somebody was, the idea of looking at it differently, what I first took from that was, this is true, but it's not great. You don't have enough sleep. That's true. And you get tired and you can't do stuff. That's true, but it's not great. So let's kid ourselves that something else is, you know, let's pretend something else is happening. Now, what I have seen since I've been around this understanding is that our experience of life is not solid in that way. Those things that look like, you know, my sleep truth, my sleep brick wall was neither truth nor a brick wall. It was thinking that I was believing was true, and my belief in the truth of it made it look like concrete, made it look like truth. And what I see is, when I began to get curious and play around with something else, I could see that something else could be equally true, could equally be concrete. So to me, the sound of the birds is beautiful. The amount of sleep that I have is perfect. And they don't look like things that are made up to me. They look like truths. They look like concrete truths. And they serve me. But nothing is fixed. That everything that we see out in this world, we have made it up via this amazing, fantastic, beautiful, brilliant gift that we have, the ability to think. But we have the ability to get curious about that thinking, because however much your sleep story looks like a concrete brick wall to you, if you are prepared to get curious, and I'm not saying, you know, look, this is true, so try and think something else, just play with it. Within you, you have the ability to see something different around it. And the minute we start to see something different starts to happen. We have an entirely different experience. Mostly these days I sleep, and when I don't sleep, that is perfectly okay. I'm meant to be awake. When I'm not asleep, I'm meant to be awake. And how do I know that? Because I am awake. It's obvious to me. And when we don't argue with what is going on, when we don't judge it and say this isn't how it should be, and I don't like this, I don't want this, when we are not like that, our experience is a beautiful experience. And everything any of us do ever is so that we feel better. And playing around in this way gives us a beautiful experience and we feel better.
What was coming to me when you were sharing that is that space, I think you used the phrase, what's in service to you. And that was what was coming to me, is we have an incredible ability to drop something that is not in service to us.
Yes, we do.
And I don't even know if I can exactly put, it's not, you know, a 5-step or a particular technique that helps you to do that. But somehow within us, we are able to drop something that doesn't serve us. And for us, the way that we have found that works is that curiosity, is that exploration. What if it isn't this? What if it could be different? What if? And just having that questioning open mind to something else being available. And very much for me, sleep is one of those places that I do that. It's like, if it isn't serving me to tell myself I must have this many hours sleep or else, then I'm just curious about whether I could drop that story, whether a different story is available here. What if it's perfectly okay to have 5.5 hours sleep? What if it's perfectly fine that I spend the first 3 hours in bed just coming up with amazing business ideas or terrible business ideas?
I'll sleep, you come up with great ideas. I'm
or
totally
terrible. They might be terrible, I have no idea.
Well, we're doing okay, so.
I mean, this TV show was one of those kind of ideas at one point.
It was,
way back when. So who knows?
True.
But, you know, it's very much for me, and I know for Deb too, one of the things that we are interested in is just having a life filled with as much love and happiness and fun as we can have.
Absolutely, that's always my objective.
It totally is. So it's like, if telling myself the story or looking at sleep as a problem is stopping me from doing that, I'm interested to know if I can see it differently.
Absolutely.
And somewhere within you, as I'm saying this, and as I say it, as me and Deb have done before, there's something in you that knows that that's available. There's a place within you that can resonate and hear this, even if your head's going, no, but yeah, but it's this. You've not had
my experience. You've not had as little sleep as I have.
That's what we do, isn't it? And I recognise that we each get our individual experiences here, but the fundamental truth about all of us is that we always have it available to us to have a different experience. And you only have to look. I know one of the people that commented was a fairly new mother, and you only have to look at new mothers to see that we are still perfectly capable on very little sleep. You know, most of us wouldn't even be here as grown-ups if our parents weren't able to function
when they hadn't had any sleep.
Somehow we are, because actually those two things aren't anywhere near as connected as we've made them out to be. And just being interested in what else is possible brings so much to us, and it will be personal to you. Like I heard Deb's story and thought, oh great, if I play around with this, I'll just fall asleep instantly. And that hasn't been my experience yet. And I'm open to that being available at some point, but perhaps my personal experience is meant to be that I have an hour or so in bed where I'm just awake waiting for sleep. And that's okay. Like, it's okay that we get different experiences in that way.
It is being okay with the experience that we have, isn't it? And not being fixed, that it has to be, that we can only be okay with a very particular experience, because it's absolutely not true. If you are having an experience, then you have the capability to be okay with that experience being exactly the way that it is.
Yeah. So I think the main kind of thing for us here is always about inviting you to find your way with this. Explore what's possible for you around sleep. Is it possible that however many hours sleep you've had, or if I know a lot of people have kind of, they sleep and then they wake up and can't get back to sleep, that can be something that we can torment ourselves with. What if that's okay too? And just play around with this. Just get interested in, allow something to come through you that invites you to see this in a new way.
I mean, that is the key, isn't it? Just playing around with it until something else occurs to you, because it will be personal to you. And listening to stories of what specifically happened to somebody else, it's a good starting point, but whatever happens for you will be helpful for you. And that's the point, isn't it? To play around. And yeah, and going back, one of the first times I heard somebody in this community talking about sleep, it was someone who had a young baby at the time, and they'd always had a story that they needed sleep, and then all of a sudden they had a young baby, and that just wasn't on the table anymore.
Yeah, that's gone.
Yeah, that idea, you got to drop that idea, otherwise you're going to be screwed. And this person was sharing how surprised they were at how well they could function on so little sleep. It's like, if we haven't got fixed stories, like a question mark at the end of something opens our mind, a full stop closes it. And if we are not hooked on the story of our sleep patterns should be a certain way, then it's amazing what is available to us. Absolutely amazing. And one other little thing that was coming into my mind around this was, I know one of the things that used to keep me awake at night a lot was going over and over and over my problems, trying to solve my problems. Not that nice, fun little telling yourself stories and having ideas, just as soon as I would put my head on the pillow, something that I needed to remember for tomorrow, or I needed to do, or I needed to sort out, when it used to come into my mind. And one of the things that I have seen recently, and just seen so clearly, is and something Bec and I have shared a lot, is about taking responsibility, but knowing I'm not responsible. And what I've really started recently doing with anything that happens like that to me at night is realizing that this isn't the time, and I am not responsible. I'm going to give this problem over to the universe right now, and I am not going to think about it. And that has been so helpful to me in just allowing myself, because one of the reasons I think we keep ourselves awake in that way is because it feels irresponsible not to keep chewing on that problem. And what I've really seen is it's irresponsible not to just go to sleep and then the solution to the problem. It seems to me that the universe sorts it out and then hands me the solution. So much better idea.
It's a much lighter way to be.
Much better way to be.
Yeah.
Because we have so many things in our world that we have set up. This is down to me. I have to work hard at this. And very much in the vein of let's have fun, let's have a light-hearted life. I've seen something very different around that. So get curious and play with that too.
There is your invitation.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as always, if this show has brought anything up for you, please feel free to message us, be in touch, contact us in any way that you see fit.
Yes.
Comment below the video or whatever. So next week, our show is called Finding the Good When Things Look Overwhelmingly Bad.
That's quite a nice long title that we picked next week. We hope you'll join us there.
Absolutely. It's going to be another great show.
Yeah, and have a good night's sleep.
Oh, absolutely. And just before, if you are awake at night, why don't you buy one of our books so that you can support the CIC and be doing something useful instead of being asleep.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, we'll make sure the links to the books are below. So you
absolutely.
Can do that.
See you again very, very soon. Take care. Bye.